Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City of Cedar Falls City Council meeting for Monday, February 3rd. I will call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Schultz.
Here.
Latta.
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Hallbaker.
Here.
Ganfield.
Here.
Chrisman. Here. Dunn.
Here.
All members present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And if everyone is willing and able, could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. Look for a motion to approve the regular minutes of January 21st, 2025.
So move.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? And any from the public? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any agenda revisions?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. We'll now move to public forum, where speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. If it's on the agenda, you can wait for that item to come up specifically rather than speaking at the public forum. So is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak tonight? Just name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thompson. I live at 4810 Luke Street in Cedar Falls. I was unable to attend the council meeting on January 21st, but we did watch the video of that meeting, and we would like to address some key points regarding the herbal revitalization zone being extended to the strips of land behind Luke and Millennium Streets, which we think were missed last week. And I know you don't have the maps, I'm sure, in front of you. I did print a couple of copies if you've got them. Okay. We, in response to the little postcard with all the legalese that we received, we did come down to City Hall, met with Ms. Kerr, who very nicely provided us with a map of the area. And when we had some questions, she found Shane Graham to speak to us and address some of those questions. He was not able to address everything. One question that we asked him was why the boundary was being extended all the way down to Huntington Road. And one of his comments was because he thought it was done because it was easier to make the map to existing streets. Taking the easier way is not always the best way, and I doubt that when you hired the legal firm to draw up the map, you didn't ask them to go and choose according to what would be the easiest way. He did provide us the email addresses for Mr. Ganfield, Ms. Chrisman, and Ms. Dunn, and we thank you, Mr. Ganfield, very much for responding to our emails and the email correspondence that we've had with you in regard to this matter. I heard Mr. Cruz say he's here. I don't know where he is, but also thank you to him for understanding and supporting our concerns, appropriately pointing out that the city would be essentially putting a red light on the area behind our homes by offering incentives. We understand that there isn't currently a plan to build an apartment building there, as Mr. Hawbaker pointed out. We referred to fighting windmills. We would point out, however, you weren't aware of a plan to build an apartment complex on the corner of Cedar Heights and Green Hill Road either a few months ago. You know, up until a few months ago, you weren't aware of that either. So that could be said of any undeveloped land and property in Cedar Falls. The point is, why give incentives to build on property surrounding existing homes? We understand, we listen to and we understand your points of wanting to increase the tax base and also wanting to offer additional residence available in Cedar Falls. But why not offer those incentives to larger areas in Cedar Falls that could accommodate more multi-residential properties like the apartment complex going in on Green Hill and Hudson? You've got wide open spaces right across on the west side of Cedar Heights that's opened all the way to Prairie Parkway behind Unity Point. Just south of Green Hill, next to Candeo Church, you've got a large area of space. West of Hudson Road, along Green Hill Road, or out by the new high school. And I'm sure you all are more familiar with areas than what I am. But those areas would accommodate multiple apartment complexes with the amenities and would accomplish your goal and ours. They would be a greater increase to the tax base that you expressed and offer more residence that was desired than what could be built in the narrow strips of land behind our homes. So why not offer those incentives to builders for those areas? The strips of land that are included here behind Luke Street and Millennium, by the time you build street access and parking, you're going to be right up against the back of our property line and our homes. And I don't think any of you would want that done to your home and property. Someone asked Mr. Graham if there would be an impact on existing homes, and he said no. But common sense would tell you, of course it would. Ask any realtor of your choice, if I listed my home for sale tomorrow, what the price would be versus what the price would be if I listed it with an apartment building right up on my property line.
30 seconds.
Mr. Graham noted that according to the state zoning requirements, you needed 2 parcels of land for that to happen. Later, when one of you gentlemen over here, I couldn't see which one of you, asked if there were 2 parcels, he said yes. And I'm assuming that that's where the church is that was for sale for the apartment complex. And then there's a large field just north of the church that was also included in that corner for the new apartment complexes.
There's 5 minutes, Ms. Thompson.
I'm sorry?
There's 5 minutes.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, if it please the council, I'd like to give her one more minute. Finish up, I think.
okay.
I second that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Just saying, I know, Mayor Luddick, that you had suggested to the council last time that they could review the area and offer the opportunity to have staff review it further to see if those 2 areas would be concerned. I mean, you went all the way around the child care center that's there to get down to ours. So we're just asking that you have another opportunity tonight to make this right. And we're asking that you listen to our points and suggestions as we heard yours, consider the options that we've provided you, and hope that you listen to our points like we listened to yours. Thank you. Thank you for extending.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. And this item is later in the agenda. We've got it on the ordinances to approve, so we won't discuss it now, but we'll come back to this if that's all right when we get to the item.
I just didn't see public opportunity for
Yes, we will make
comments
sure as we
listed
vote on it to
under
make sure.
that item, so that's why I thought.
Okay.
But thank you.
Thank you. And any other public speakers tonight? Just name and address, please.
Kim Jensen Jordan, Cedar Falls. And just a couple things to clear up. I just wanted to kind of find out maybe what, it's been months ago since Chief Terrelka was in, and he had brought to us the fact that we could do a combined public safety and an evidence building. And I hadn't really heard or read if we had any follow-up on that. So that was one question that I was kind of hoping to get cleared up. I thought it was appropriate since the county seat was just up for bid, and we had the election for that. And I know that we lost ours, so it's just one of those concerns. There's also another thing to clear up. We had tax. I'm always concerned about how our tax base in Cedar Falls is hitting the residents, and it seems like we keep giving all of these credits to developers. In one case, just recently, we gave, I believe, the Dahlstrom unit from 5 years to 10 years. And yet we have small businesses all throughout the community that could use some of those same incentives to kind of help with their growth opportunity. And it helps with their insurance and everything else that we're all paying. So looking at how we can help the homeowners within the city and support the small businesses, and then be mindful of the decisions that we make that are kind of adding to those tax costs. And one of the things last in the 2024 budget that we had, and I'd like to get it maybe cleared up, it could maybe be a question that could be answered yet tonight. The $3 million that we gave to the Unidome, that was a one-time only gift But I'm just wanting to clarify that that didn't possibly go and extend into the 2025 year budget. Sometimes those little things get stuck in there. And I know those minutes were approved, so council and staff, Jennifer just stepped out. But, you know, if we could get an answer to that tonight, that would be wonderful. Because, and if we could get an idea too on that evidence building, that way we don't have to read it in the newspaper. The other thing that is kind of, as I've been looking at everything and being concerned about how we, like our insurance companies, we're looking at California, gosh forbid, you know, we have buildings, we have amenities here, and we would not want to have to replace them. But the PSOs that we currently have, how many of those do we actually have in this community right now? Is that something that, Mr. Birdie, do we have an answer on that? Like just the PSOs? Okay,
I can make
Mayor?
sure and circle back to some of these.
Okay, that would be wonderful. And then from that, like how many, is that new? Are we planning to hire any new? Or is that just the number that we have right now? Because sometimes those monies, if they're not filled, that's another money that could be saving. And as I've been reading into some of these consolidated dispatch things that we have going, it's concerning to see that with everything that we're doing for development for our community, we say that we're trying to be fiscally responsible and cut the budget on our public safety. And then I read, in the long term, centralized political control by a single legislative body will be critical in long-term cost-effective management. And that we partner with, we have long ongoing negotiations with UNI and the Iowa State and Public Safety to determine the dispatch systems at a lower cost to the city. So we've got houses that need to be having coverage. We're trying to cut, and then we're thinking that we have a centralized political control. Just trying to clarify some of those things, know how many PSOs we actually have, and kind of figure out where we're going with public safety. A final thing, we have a very hot intersection at First and Hudson Road, and I'm concerned about that new development. So if we can find out if we actually have a business that's going to have a business driving around the building, the new building, and how many businesses are going to be in that, and then how close is that traffic going to be to the bike trail? Because those, again, are public safety, and we have the Iowa State Patrol. Thank you, God, for them to be there for this side of town. It's
This time.
thank you.
And I can get back to a few of these here. Can you speak to a few of the ones you had there?
Mayor and Council, I can answer a couple of those. Our authorized strength since fiscal year 25 has been 76 public safety officers. We have 76 employees, 75 of them are cross-trained public safety officers, and 1 is a police officer. And then as far as the consolidated evidence facility, that was an effort 3-4 years ago where we talked about a consolidated evidence facility with Blackhawk County and Waterloo. They're still going forward with that effort. We're most likely not going to be a part of it. We don't need to be a part of it. We have our own evidence facility in our new building. We have our own evidence storage. But that being said, whenever we have a major crime, our evidence technicians work together all the time. Daily, our evidence technicians may work along with Waterloo evidence technicians or Hudson or UNI. We do trips to the state crime lab together when we're taking evidence down and bringing it back. So we work with them all the time, but if you talk with Waterloo County and with Cedar Falls, there's really not a big benefit for us to take our evidence employee and have him, work at a facility in downtown Waterloo right now. But when we have something that involves a lot of vehicles or we need big storage, we can sure store with them. They can store with us. So we work with them all the time, but we're not planning to be part of their evidence facility. They're about probably 6 to 7 times bigger than we are in terms of personnel and activity and the amount of evidence they have.
Thank you, Director. And then we haven't, I believe, cut any public safety Typically, though, as the city expands and grows, we look at every year our capacity, our needs, and we look at expanding staff as.
Yep. If you go back 2 fiscal years ago, we were authorized 74. We went to 75. The council authorized when we added the K-9 and another officer 2 years ago. And then just last year, we got in a partnership with the schools. We added a 76 position when we added that second SRO. So we've grown 2 positions in 2 years, and you won't find a lot of departments in Iowa that have done that.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you, Director. I can speak to the Unidome funding piece. So for that, it was a $3 million approval is what council approved. It wasn't all budgeted within 1 year, though. It was budgeted over a 3-year period. So I know Jen's not here to correct me if I speak wrongly, but somebody will yell at me. So it was $1.25 million, which was budgeted in last year's fiscal year, $1.25 million in this year's fiscal year, this coming year. So excuse me, 1.25 in the current year we're in, 1.25 in the next, and then 500,000 in the following year, but 3 million total over that period. I see heads nodding, so I spoke correctly. And then on the small business, the tax incentives, usually for a lot of the TIF, tax increment financing incentives we do, a lot of those for new growth, and essentially we're providing a rebate of some of those new taxes as they're creating new taxable value. It is more difficult when we look at going to be able to apply tax incentives to supporting existing businesses, things like that, but we do work very closely with Main Street, Iowa, our state agencies to look at the overall climate of our business community, what are they struggling with, what are we investing in our commercial districts to help continue to support foot traffic. We work very closely with Main Street and a few of those organizations. So I know especially this last year, some of the conversation around property taxes downtown, property values going up, we're working very closely with some of those partners to make sure we do what we can. Handing out money is not usually the best option we have as a city because most of our dollars are tax dollars. So a lot of it, though, is sometimes trying to work with our state agency partners to figure out what can we continue to do to support. Dispatch question, I don't know if I'll answer this correctly to what you were asking. We do have a shared dispatch with the county, so all the cities kind of pool their resources and have a single consolidated dispatch system that is housed through the county. We each pay kind of our portion based on property values, and that's kind of how it's set up now. If that doesn't quite answer your question, we can connect afterwards and see if there's something else I can get you.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to mention the Housing Trust Fund?
Yes, on the housing piece, we did get a new, one example is a new housing trust fund set up this year, which gets us about 260 or so thousand state dollars to help us continue to address affordable housing programs. We'll have new home buyer assistance, $10,000 forgivable loans, and up to $20,000 home improvement loans for people that qualify under low to moderate income. So that's brand new this year, and we'll have more information coming. So should have a lot of those grants available here in the next couple months. So thank you, Councilor. Anyone else for public forum tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move to staff updates. I don't believe we have any staff updates tonight. I do have one from my side. So we are officially today launching. We'll have more information coming out over the next couple of days. Our new strategic planning process. So something you might have heard council and us discussing is wanting to work on establishing a new 3 to 5 year strategic plan for the city to really look at, based on resident feedback, staff feedback, leadership feedback, what are our core priorities. You know, we can't do everything, but we can do a lot of things well if we have a good focus. So over the next about month, we'll be opening up a public input process to ask questions about what are your priorities for Cedar Falls, what do you care about, what would you like to see more of, what would you just like to see less of, what are the opportunities we have to improve. We know we're not perfect. We strive to be, and so this we're looking for, my personal goal is 2,000 to 3,000 responses to the survey. I have been told that's probably overly optimistic. But if you go to cedarfalls.com/strategic plan, there will be a link there to the strategic plan site. So we really would love to get everybody's feedback. If you have a chance, share it with anyone you know, because this input will really help drive what are our priorities and focus areas for the next 3 to 5 years. So appreciate you all in advance filling that out. Otherwise, we will move on to special order of business. Item number 2, public hearing to consider entering into a proposed second amended and restated agreement for private development with CV Commercial LLC. Do we have a motion to approve and receive and file proof?
So moved.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
One written communication was received and included in the packet.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And then for staff comments, I believe we have Shane Gray. Thanks, Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. In July of 2021, if council may remember, council approved an agreement for private development with CV Commercial for a new 5-story mixed-use building at the corner of 22nd Street and College Street. In that agreement included a project completion date of December 31st, 2023. Since the project wasn't initiated by that time, the developer did request an amendment to that agreement to push back the completion date, and that came to council then in February 19th of 2024, so about a year ago, where the City Council did approve an amended and restated agreement to update that project completion date. Most recently then in October of 24, when City Council reviewed the incentive guidelines in College Hill and in downtown from going to 5-year to 10-year, the developer reached out to city staff and then recently presented to City Council at a recent committee meeting where the council gave staff direction to move forward with bringing an amended agreement again to council. So that's what's before council tonight is within the second amended agreement, it's upping the incentive from a 5-year tax rebate to a 10-year tax rebate. And then also in that first amended agreement, it had a project completion date of December 31st of 2025. The developer indicated, I believe at the last council meeting, that that project would take approximately a year. So we're going to update that completion date to the end of 26 to allow them some time to get the construction done. So that is before you tonight. If you have any questions, I am here for any questions.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
And I know just because it was kind of mentioned in public comment, I want to discuss. So the reason we looked at moving from the 5-year to 10-year incentives was did a lot of comparative research. We had a housing needs assessment done about 4 years ago now, 3-4 years ago, that showed we were lagging behind significantly on our housing availability, both for a range of housing, largely in the kind of affordable housing, starter family home area of $200,000 to $300,000, but kind of a shortage across the board. So based on comparative research on what are other communities offering, why aren't we seeing more development here, staff brought back looking forward or looking at some recommendations on a lot of other cities are around that 10-year. So that was why we set that, was to encourage more housing development, because we do have people that would like to live in Cedar Falls, and I'm sure all of us know our property values because of high demand are a little higher. So that was one of the focus areas for us, is figuring out how do we get more housing development going so we have the available housing for people looking to live in Cedar Falls and hopefully address the affordability piece. So with that, any questions, comments from council while we got Shane? All right, thank you, Shane. And then we will open this item up for public comments. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion for resolution approving and authorizing execution of a second amended and restated agreement for private development with CV Commercial LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded and open for council discussion. All right, seeing none, this requires a roll call vote, please.
6 voting aye, 1 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion passes. Item number 3, public hearing on the proposed rezoning from A1 Agricultural Zoning District to PC2 Planned Commercial District, approximately 76.53 acres of property located at the northeast corner of U.S. Highway 20 and Hudson Road. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. And all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I almost forgot that part. Motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And for staff comments, I believe we've got Michelle. Thank you, Michelle.
Hello, excuse me. The property is located on the northeast corner of Highway 20 and Hudson Road, and also south of West Ridgeway Avenue. As the staff report found in your packets, shows the proposal meets the rezoning criteria. And the recommendation of rezoning to the A1 zoning district to the PC2 district, the PC2 district requires a master plan. The city adopted the Creekside Technology Center master plan in 2019. And also the property is within the Highway Commercial Corridor Overlay District. To help with the future development, the city, our staff had created the Creekside Business Park Master Plan Standards, which is in your packet. The Creekside Technology Center Master Plan had 4 guiding principles, which are creating a gateway along Hudson, a high-end technology and office and industrial park, utilizing additional existing natural features, providing stormwater, and to provide connections and improvements for our bicycle, pedestrian vehicle circulation in the project as well as the rest of the city. The main elements of that master plan has the gateway signage, landscape roundabouts connecting to the north, stormwater wetlands, which includes a park and trail system, and green buffers along the streets, as well as around the perimeter. It also included a boulevard entrance around the roundabouts going into the property, as well as establishing a wider right-of-way to provide access and room for street trees and landscaping. In the PC2 zoning district, all the commercial uses are allowed. Within the master plan, adopted master plan, we have limited those to what is listed in the plan and adding the regional sports facilities and gas station / convenience store. And with that, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions right now from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. President, would you clarify, this is changing additional, putting in those regional sports facilities and the gas station in this rezoning, or is that a separate process?
That's part of this recommendation.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Counselor. Did you have something? Aaron?
No, I'm sorry. I was.
Okay. All right, any other questions from council? All right, thank you, Michelle. And we will now open this item up to public comments. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion and pass an ordinance amending the zoning map by removing approximately 76.53 acres of property located at the northeast corner of US Highway 20 and Hudson Road from A1 Agricultural Zoning District to PC2 Planned Commercial District upon its first consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item number 4, public hearing on proposed amendments to the Cedar Falls zoning map, specifically to amend the downtown character district regulating plan, changing the neighborhood small frontage designation to urban general 2 frontage designation on Walnut and Olive Streets in the first block south of West First Street. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries, and staff, or excuse me, Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And for staff comments, JD?
Thank you.
JD.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. This is a case for rezoning amendment to amend the CDDT downtown regulating plan from changing the map, the frontage designation from neighborhood small to urban general 2. One second. Oh, there you go. So the subject location is the two light blue colored area on the map represented by red star. These are the neighborhood small area, which will be is being proposed to change to the yellow, which is the urban general 2. Just a bit of background on this. The Imagine Downtown Vision Plan was adopted back in 2019. Following the adoption of Vision Plan, a new downtown character district map, a regulating plan, and the zoning district was adopted in 2021. With that, the current zoning is the zoning map is the current zoning. The urban general 2 district is oriented for street-oriented, multi-story building that allows commercial, residential, and institutional uses. Whereas the neighborhood small, the one in blue, is intended for residential uses, including detached and attached houses up to smaller building apartments. As per the vision plan, the idea was the subject area was termed as a northwestern gateway to the downtown area. And the idea was to develop the properties along the First Street corridor as a urban building form, varying heights from 2 to 4-story buildings, more of mixed-use character to continue the character to the downtown area. And it was also termed that the current development along the properties along the West First is not developed to its potential. These properties are underdeveloped, and that may need to change once the map was adopted. Again, the current zoning, the reason why we are discussing this today is that we have a request from an applicant to build a 6-unit townhome on the highlighted site in black up on your screen. The idea is to put a 6-unit townhome. The current neighborhood setback manner has 20 feet building setback that is indicated by the red dashed line, and the front building setback. So as you can see, the width of the lot is the depth of the lot is 50 to 52 feet. When with those setback, it becomes very difficult to build a building. And so are the other lots to the west. Is just an example that because the setback will continue on those smaller width properties on West First, it becomes difficult to develop those. So in that case, the request is for rezoning, changing the designation from neighborhood small on Olive and Walnut Street to urban general 2. Just another glimpse of the map. As you can see on your map that most of the area, I have at least 2/3 of the area designated as urban general, which makes the properties along West First more easier to develop. But as you can see, this area, the boundary here for the downtown district only goes up to 1 lot and changes from the second, making it inefficient, and also does not provide much flexibility for developing those shallow lot width lots along West First Street. So the idea is to amend the plan to extend the urban general 2 to make sure that the lots along the West First Street have potential for development. With that, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the proposed rezoning on a vote of 9-0. I'm here to answer any questions if anyone has. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, JD. Any questions for council? Yep, Councilor Schultz.
Yeah, JD, I've heard of concerns about the footprint of this building. So you've already said that the lots and the setbacks are difficult to maneuver to utilize kind of a smaller lot in the first place. My understanding, the intent is to have parking under the structure?
That is correct, yes.
And that the access to that parking would come from the alley?
Yes, that is correct.
So on 6 units, have you seen any proposal? Are these 2-bedroom units or 3-bedroom or 1-bedrooms or?
So I may not remember this correctly, but we have an application on file. The site plan application was submitted for this building. My guess is it's 2-bedroom units, and yes.
And so looking at the map, refresh me, that alley would dump off onto Walnut in just one way, or would it dump off at Walnut and Olive?
I think generally speaking, when the downtown vision plan was adopted and the district guidelines were made, I think the intention was to have urban building form along the street, so to have maximum of street frontage and have the parking area assessed from the alley as much as possible. So in this case, you may see that the property does not have any access point of West First or the Walnut Street. So this would be the prime access point to those parking spaces.
So I saw in the notes from P&Z, they'd asked if the owner could either take ownership of the alley or build on the alley, and the answer to that was no. Is there an intent to pave the alley, or would this be a gravel alley, or?
That would be the question for the owner. Sorry.
So the responsibility is on the owner, on the care of the alley.
I cannot
Could you
speak.
clarify which alley you're talking about? Are you talking about the city's public alley, or are you talking about what would be the driveway access
The driveway
to the
access.
garages?
Yep, the driveway
Okay,
access
That
to
would
the
need to be paved.
Yes, that
It
will
would
be-
need to be paved, okay.
Yes.
And then just one other question, JD, is I saw there's some notes about trees and the availability to park trees or plant trees. Is there a design to incorporate trees on the property or on the boulevard or?
Again, the site plan that we received is still under review. These are the current code guidelines. The neighborhood setback manner standard requires the owner to put trees along the properties on the south. So they have submitted a plan with that. And again, we are yet to see the revisions, so we don't know what the final output will look like.
Okay.
And that'll still be yet to go through P&Z and then come back to us for approval for the actual
The site
final plan. Yep,
No, the site plan will be approved administratively.
yep, because we've got that for the downtown district. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Mr. Atodario, I just wanted to double check my understanding on this. The existing neighborhood small allows for small apartment buildings. How many units are qualified as a small apartment building in the existing neighborhood small?
Good question. I think I didn't mean that the neighborhood small allows for, I don't think there's any categorization of number of units. But what I meant was the current neighborhood small all have residences, and most likely they are going to stay as residents. But I think the rezoning was just for the idea to open up flexibility for development along the properties on the First Street.
And the main reason for rezoning it is so that they're a contiguous property and they don't have differences in
Right.
usage. Gotcha. I think the concern I have heard from some residents is that abuts R2, where it's a maximum of 2 units in that area. So if they were able to put in a 6-unit directly on those, they appreciate the buffer that neighborhood small used to provide. But if it's already allowed to do a 6-unit in the neighborhood small, I don't know that there's a massive difference. So I wanted to try and get some clarity around what's allowed today if they were larger neighborhood small areas.
Sure. So this neighborhood setback manner would still apply to those properties to the south. So for example, if you see the map, this 20 feet setback, which is applied currently on the lot, the lot along the First Street, will be applied to the lot to the south as well. So that will be still the buffer for any R2 zone property, and the chances for redevelopment of those are likely slim at this point, but it will just give more chance and favorable condition for the properties along West First Street to redevelop.
And I appreciate the consistency in developing that urban area. I think the difference there is a 20-foot setback doesn't feel like a buffer when it goes from a 2 or 3-story apartment to my tiny little residential single unit.
Sure.
So I think that concern is there. We can't control it if we don't keep the zoning, though.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm going into lobbying a bit, so thank you for answering the questions.
One more thing I would like to add is the neighborhood setback manner. There's also a standard about how the height of the building relates to the lot. So there is a plane of 1:25. So after every 25 feet, they will have to have a 20 feet further setback. So for example, if it's a 3-story building, after every 2-story, they'll have to move further 20 feet off. So making sure that they have the respectable setback.
So that does also provide for that buffer up towards,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify that I heard that correctly. So by passing this, we're amending the zoning essentially, but we're not going to see a site plan come back to us for approval. Is that correct?
For the site, no. Yes, that is correct.
Can I understand why that is the case?
So high level, let's say with the character districts, it was changed so that as long as it fits all the requirements, the checklist of everything that goes into design standards, it's got approval, or it's got staff approval process to go through, and that was part of the character district process.
We have several other zoning districts that don't require P&Z or council approval as well.
For example?
Like the R2, the R1, C2,
Okay.
C1.
Thanks.
Any other questions from council? All right, thank you, JD.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
And we will open to public comment for this item. Just your name, please.
Kim Jensen, Jordan. So I guess I'm trying to clarify, coming off of First Street, the alley entrance, there would be Walnut Street, the alley, and then Iowa Street. Is that correct? Olive Street. Okay. And so we're saying that that would have to be paved by the homeowner coming from First Street to the entrance, or it's just the parking that they have?
Yeah, I believe they're talking about the alleyway back behind for the parking.
All right, because, and then the setbacks. We had a loss of setbacks with the First Street reconstruction. So I think maybe it's a good point to see how the trees or whatever might imply through there to the homeowner. Also, we had a situation, and maybe that's where we have some of the confusion as to if it has to come back to planning and zoning or not, when we had Liberty Bank in the character district downtown, and it was set up to have parking underground and I believe some housing up above. And all of a sudden, we have no housing up and there was no parking that was created underground. So just to clarify some of those things that might need to be revisited, you know, if we're putting additional homes right there on First Street with access that's going to have to turn on to Walnut Street, and hopefully, you know, at some point we still have a hospital or some sort of need and care for the surrounding communities to that neighborhood, and off-street parking, because it is a very busy downtown area during Sturgis Falls. And the parking, even for any of that additional onto Walnut, would be very close to that intersection and then the blind spots that go. So concerned about that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen Jordan. Any other public comment for this item tonight? Just name and address, please.
Mary Jane McCollum. I'm at 807 West 2nd. I'm in the block directly, excuse me, the block directly west of this location. One of the concerns I have, again, a lot of them have already been discussed, brought up. The neighborhood small district includes small apartments, which has already been mentioned, could be, well, we don't seem to know what the definition is of how many apartments they could put there. But a little history. There was a house there that was torn down when DOT widened First Street. And it was a split foyer, had a garage. It was used primarily for insurance. I think there was a siding company in there at one time, but there was nothing out in the yard. It looked like a house. If someone wanted to build there, a small number of apartments or residential or condos, I don't have a problem with that. I probably wouldn't be here. But when you go to Urban General, you're looking at multi-story, which could be 4 stories up, which is like what's down on 2nd State or Arabella. And that would be right up against the R2 district on the south half of the street. You ask about the alley. The alley there runs north and south. And all of the houses, the 2-story houses, the 1-story houses that are also in that block, all have garages off that alley. So you're going to talk about a 6 condos, 6, I don't know what we're calling them, using that same alley as a way to get in and out of the garage or the parking. You cannot put a driveway off Walnut. Walnut is a very busy street. It's the only one in Cedar Falls other than Hudson Road that goes all the way through town. There is no other street that doesn't dead end somewhere. And so there's a lot of traffic on Walnut. And you would have trouble getting out from Walnut onto First Street, and you have trouble going around the corner and into behind these these apartments. There just isn't the room for it. It's 6 is too many. I guess that's the point. If it were 2 or 3, I wouldn't have a problem. But I also see, well, there was, JD kind of answered the question about how many bedrooms, but we're back to that parking issue again that has come up repeatedly, even on College Hill. This is a 2-bedroom with 1 parking spot. So where are people going to park? Well, that means they're going to be on Olive, they're going to be on Walnut, they may even be as far away to the south as on Second. This is not the location for this many units. You could have 24 people there, and you're going to have certainly more cars if you have 2 people per unit. It's a very crowded intersection with McDonald's, and it's interesting that I spoke at Planning and Zoning in December. I wasn't available in January, but when I watched the January 8th, I believe it was, P&Z meeting, I heard the same thing, and I've heard the same thing again tonight about putting apartment complexes in areas with single-family houses, with Luke Street now is another one. All of these high-density apartment complexes in with single-family houses. And I don't think any of you, and I've said this before, I don't think any of you would want to live next to something that could be 4 stories. There's talk of 3rd floor, a penthouse, and a roof. So it sounds like party town to me, and I don't think this is the place for this building. And again, as it's already been said, this is your only chance to say anything about it, because once it passes the zoning challenge, you're out. It's not something City Council has any say in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCollum. If I can check a few questions with you guys, quick staff. Is up to 4 stories possible with the amount of setback space that's available there, or do you know what kind of the maximum potential number of stories would be based on that site layout?
So the Urban General 2 allows buildings up to 4-story high. Yeah, I think the proposal we have is 3-story, and then they have a rooftop access for like a open space requirements. So.
I just know it required, you said for every additional story, additional setback space, and I didn't know if 4 stories was even possible on that site.
I don't believe that 4 stories would be possible here, for one thing. Also to the lots to the south, with the neighborhood, that neighborhood manor setback then applies to the lot to the south. So when we talk about the ability to put an apartment building there, it's also a small lot. So it's up against the R2. So the chances of those 2 lots to the south, even though they'll be designated with this rezoning as urban general, the possibility for them to redevelop is very, very little, because there wouldn't be enough room on those lots. So the zoning determines the size of the lot, determines what's the ability to develop there. So when you ask the question about the size of an apartment building, it's controlled by the size of the lot. It has to meet all the requirements for that district to meet the size of the lot. So it's very little chance for much there, even with this rezoning.
And then really quick, the parking requirements in that district, do you know, is it 1 spot per unit, or is it still 1 spot per bedroom?
So if it is an apartment building, it's 3/4 of a space per bedroom, plus the shared parking of 0.25 spaces. But with a townhome or a single family or a duplex, it's 1 space per unit for a single family. So these would be townhomes that would require 1 space for 2 bedrooms, 2 spaces for 3 bedrooms.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Howard, is Denny, could you put the map back up, Denny? Are you saying to the south or to the west on that map for the smaller lots?
So you can see the two lots to the south are also pretty small lots. They're not, so when that line moves to the south, the setback, the neighborhood manor setback also moves. So it would take up approximately 20 feet of that lot that you wouldn't be able to put a building on. So that's why I'm saying there's not much potential for redevelopment of the two lots that are to the south. It does open up then the possibility for the lots along First Street to develop, because you would no longer have that 20-foot good neighbor setback on those lots. It would shift to the south.
Okay, thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Any other questions? Well, actually, I guess we're on public comment. So any other public comment tonight? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion to pass an ordinance amending the zoning map specifically to amend the downtown character district regulating plan, changing the neighborhood small frontage designation to urban general 2 frontage designation on Walnut and Olive Streets in the first block south of West First Street upon its first consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
Three voting aye, four voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion does not pass. Okay, moving to item number 5, public hearing on the proposed plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2025 alley reconstruction project. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And for this one, we have staff comments from Brett Armstrong. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Tonight's public hearing is for the 2025 alley reconstruction project. This project involves the reconstruction of 5 alleys, 4 of which are concrete and 1 of which is a permeable alley. Work shall include the combination of excavation and backfill for the alley areas, removal and replacement of driveway and sidewalk, PCC curb and gutter, subdrain installation, placement of storage and filter aggregate, installation of permeable interlocking clay brick pavers, concrete paving, and seating. This year's alleys include West 3rd Street to West 4th Street between Clay and Washington, East 10th Street to East 11th Street between State and Bluff, East 12th Street to Waterloo Road from Bluff Street to Utility Parkway, West 22nd Street to West 23rd Street between Iowa and Tremont, West 22nd Street to West Searly Boulevard between Olive Street and Walnut Street. The total estimated cost for the construction of this project is just over $400,000 and will be funded by the Stormwater Fund and Street Construction Fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Any questions, council? All right, thank you. And any discussion from the public on this item tonight? Just name, please.
Kim Jensen Jordan. Permeable pavers. They are not sustainable. There's a couple parking lots that we can look at that show that they deteriorate. We've, as a city, have been putting many dollars into that as parking lots and so forth. I understand that we have these hearings every year, to discuss these alleyways. And it seems like common sense to look at where we have our construction set up for the year, whether it's shutting down First Street for 5 to 7 years. Maybe we should, at the Sinclair gas station, make sure that that alleyway is completed so that there's not gravel that goes off onto First Street. If there's any of these additional alleys, they should have probably also gotten taken care of during those construction projects. Useful, mindful spending, common sense, all of that, knowing that we have cement that's going to last a little bit longer, but are we using the grant money the right way, I guess, is another thing that I'm just trying to bring up and think about. we've had Main Street closed down. So some of these Bluff and State Street make sense because as we access traffic, and Mrs. McCullough had said a very good point, the roads that we have that run north and south are very limited. So when people need to get in and around to their home, they have to use those alleyways. And so we're putting high-density traffic onto a low-impact area, and then if we're using salts and things like that on top of the cement and block. When are we planning on coming back? And is it going to be at a point where none of the, or not all of the alleyways in Cedar Falls have been done, and we're having to roll back and go to the beginning ones again? So looking at how we're expecting to do those and then use them, be looking at the transportation and the construction projects and hit those a year ahead of time. I don't mean to, I just trying to use common sense and forward thinking and how we can avoid having to do repairs to things that we might be getting grant money for that are not sustainable.
Thank you. And just some background information on how we do this. Staff reviews all the alleyways across the city. I believe we plan about, 6-8 years out on prioritizing. We have a certain budget each year that we have to go toward alleyways, and they try to prioritize which ones need the most repair, which ones are in a state of significant disrepair. So we do try to prioritize over time which ones are we getting to, which ones need it, and we plan pretty far out for some of that. And every year at goal setting, we look through which ones are we planning to do in this next year's budget. Are there some that we need to prioritize, move around? And I believe for the permeable ones, we kind of just do that as makes sense on a project-by-project basis. We don't require doing a certain number as permeable. We just kind of look at it on a case-by-case basis, which ones might work as permeable, which ones we should just do regular concrete. Anything to add to that?
Nope, that is correct.
Sometimes I know what I'm talking about.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we to council comment here yet?
Not yet.
Okay, sorry.
Coming up next. Any other public comment on this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion to approve resolution approving and adopting the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of costs for the 2025 alley reconstruction project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and now open for discussion. Councilor Cruz?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, cool. Can someone explain the process or the time frame and process where we refresh, for lack of a better word, the permeable pavers, 3-year, 5-year, every year? Do we power wash them out, or how do we go about making them continue to be permeable?
Chase, you got that?
Yeah, I would say every year we take a look at some of these permeable alleys that we've done. The biggest thing that we look at is siltation of the joints in between the pavers and getting plugged up. So generally speaking, if we see it's not functioning the way it should be, we'll vacuum out that aggregate, sweep in new aggregate so it's back to the design function.
Does that answer it, Counselor?
Yeah, so it's as needed, basically?
Correct. We take a look at those yearly.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
So, Mr. Schragi, I got a couple of questions. People have asked about the deterioration of our sidewalk bricks in general. There was material, and I don't remember which way this went. One was concrete, one was clay-based or something, where the bricks had deteriorated quicker than we anticipated, so we switched to the other type. Does that play into these alley permeable bricks?
That is correct. Some of the earlier bricks were precast concrete, basically molded. Those have a shorter lifespan than these clay pavers, and I would say in the recent at least 5 years we've been using clay pavers.
And the ones that we've changed over downtown are the newer, more durable.
That is correct.
Ones and the ones in the break. Don't need the entire list, but is First on the list between Scooters and Sinclair, where we do have some trouble sometimes?
I don't have that information in front of me, but I can get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion passes. We'll now move to old business. Item number 6, pass ordinance number 3092, providing that general property tax is levied and collected each year on all property located within the Hidden Pines urban renewal area in the Cedar Falls, City of Cedar Falls, County of Blackhawk County, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the State of Iowa, City of Cedar Falls, County of Blackhawk, Cedar Falls Community School District, and other taxing districts, be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans, monies advanced to an indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued incurred by the city in connection with the Hidden Pines urban renewal area upon its third and final consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Just waiting for Denny. All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item number 7, pass ordinance number 3093, designating the multi-residential urban revitalization area of the City of Cedar Falls, Iowa, upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion seconded and open for council discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, I'd like to entertain the idea with the council. I'd like to make a formal motion to amend the map to exclude the residential portions below, to include only the proposed property, which is the church property, as well as the daycare. That includes the 2 required and allows that southern section to be addressed in a later time. We'll deal with that motion to amend at the moment.
And
I'll second that.
I'll second it too.
You can't second it when someone's already seconded it, Bill. That's not how this works.
Then forget that I made a point of seconding a second.
First, I'll check with Kevin. Is that a kosher motion to look at having this? Kosher. Is that a legal motion for us to look at amending that at this point as part of a second reading?
Amendment to the ordinance, this would be substantive, starts us back over to the first reading.
Okay, so we need to, if we decide to amend it, we'd have to bring it back as a new public hearing.
And we would have to bring back a new legal description of a new urban renewal area, so it starts the process over effectively, because then it would require new notice to affected adjoining owners. And so council's free to do it, it just starts the process over.
Yep. Okay, just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. So we do have a motion and a second, and so open for discussion on the amendment to look at removing that southern portion.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, to double down on it,
Yep.
I think because there are a couple different zoning areas, including a little piece of A1 in that lower, or that southern section, I'd like to make sure that we get that all buttoned up, change that zoning as well to incorporate any residential uses that could be done there. I think it's worth looking into the initial incentive for residential development to help with, Denny, if you can turn that down a little, that'd be helpful. To help with the residential need in town, we don't have to necessarily make it multi-residential. I do think that incentivizing only multi-residential in those areas, while it could be accomplished, if left to the developer to come with a creative plan to use those, I'd like to see any residential be incentivized. So to reduce it down to the needs that we have at the moment, we just make that shorter map and then address any southern growth with a later discussion if need be. I think this accomplishes both the need of reviewing those zoning areas as well as getting the project going up on that Cedar Heights area.
Okay, thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
I kind of questioned this the last time. It doesn't seem proper to put an incentive to develop an area that's already developed, namely the Millennial Drive and the Luke Street. I don't know the point of that. I brought up the fact that what could happen is multiple homes burn down, and then with this incentive, you could have 4-plex, 6-plex, or whatever built in there. I support the amendment in a big way because of that. These east and west portions on either side of Luke and Millennium can be developed individually as time permits or down the road. So, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Other discussion from council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
You know, I didn't say that at the last hearing, but I kind of disagree with the flashing red light. I mean, College Hills had a urban revitalization area for a number of years, and I wouldn't say that development's been at a quick pace on the hill. I take the point that, you know, about whether or not we need to encourage it, but I would say that we have to not assume that that just means there'll be a rush in there. It's already mixed use, I believe, to the west and R4, with the exception of that small A1 carve out to the east of Luke Street there. So, I mean, it can be developed in that way already. But, you know, my concern is there is a project going forward at the corner of Green Hill and Cedar Heights Road there that I thought we were all kind of in favor of, and it looks like a good development that would help with their housing needs. I don't see having the urban revitalization area over those two areas leading to a flood of investment. The historical examples don't bear that out. It still would be subject to a lot of other requirements before anything could get built in there. I'm really not in favor of kind of going back to square one and putting the development that I thought the council was in favor of and delaying that. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I'm in agreeance of starting this back over with the development on the corner is very favorable. Development down below in the southern part is, in my opinion, more like what's on Millennial and Luke now, and I think that there's development that could be done there that would match what's going on here without including it in the change. And I do know what my error was. I didn't mean to say I second it too. I meant to say I second it also.
Thank you.
Yes, the grammar was the
grammar.
problem. It was the
It means
grammar.
the same, really, T-O-O, but.
Attorney Rogers, and feel free to say if you don't know this off the top of your head, that's fine. We can amend this after approval as well, correct? If we decided we wanted to amend the district. So say it goes through all the readings, it gets approved, and we think we would like to look at amending that to make it only, can we amend this after it's been final and approved?
I don't believe so. I think what the motions on the floor effectively do is start the process over. I heard something about single-family incentives. This is a revitalization area. It's supposed to be for low and moderate income housing, so that's a factor. It's going to take some work to get to what council is after, if I'm hearing the comments correctly. So, and I don't want to tell the council that we could just pass along and then we can just change it afterwards. It starts the process over effectively.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. Yep. I don't want to cut anybody else off, but I think I was just wanted to clarify what I heard last meeting. We said we could amend the map without it going back all the way through P&Z and everything, but it is well met that this would require a first reading of a new ordinance. Are you proposing then that we would have to come back next meeting with that notice and first reading in 2 more weeks? Probably appropriate.
Notice is definitely required again, and it start over with the first reading in whatever fashion council wants to see it come back as.
That makes sense. And so I think to that point, I mean, Mr. Hawbaker, you're correct that it could delay this project by as much as a month since last meeting, was the first reading. I don't think it puts in jeopardy the development that I do believe we're all in support of there on the corner of the roundabout, if you will. So to allow that to go forward, and then for a later discussion of what to do with any single-family things on the southern portions would be what I was referring to there, Attorney Rogers. So not coupling them together, simply moving the map up to the 2 required areas. It may delay it by a month, but I don't know if they're ready to go or not, but that's, again, clarification on the amendment. That'd be kind of meeting us halfway here. We could then rediscuss what it looks like to incentivize potential stuff later in the southern portion. To that point, I believe Mr. Graham had already pointed out that there were potential ongoing discussions about single-family dwellings being developed in that R4 on the east. So the multi-residential revite zone would be pointless there if they're already going about that and wouldn't be earning the incentive with the 2-unit building anyway. So I don't think it's harming anything or stalling out any potential development there.
Maybe I'm confused. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
Maybe I'm confused. I might need some staff help on this. I mean, the characterization or the label of multi-residential, right? You know,
3 or more.
so what's the definition for the purposes of this area? Or whoever, whoever.
I saw 3 fingers by Mr. Ganfield. That's correct. 3 or more units.
Okay. Okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean a big multiplex or anything like that, right? So.
Mr. Mayor?
Could, at 3 or more.
Right.
Just- yeah.
Okay.
One sec, Counselor, I'm going to see if anyone that hasn't spoken yet would like to.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I would like staff's help in the fact that, hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. We keep referring to, I believe we're referring to the proposed site plan for the apartments and the dog park and the pool and all the pickleball and all the things. Would this, people keep saying it's not going to affect that. I'm thinking it does affect that. Am I wrong in thinking that, Shane?
Potentially.
I'm wrong?
The project would not be able to start and it wouldn't be eligible for any urban revitalization incentive if the project starts before the plan has been adopted. So if this strings out till June or July, that would put a hold on the project if the developer wanted to be included in this area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I mean, there's a good chance if there was money on the table that it could delay that project. And maybe, obviously, there's not a yes or no, but I'm thinking it definitely could affect that project. So I don't think we can say it won't affect that.
Mr. Mayor?
Is anyone else that hasn't spoken yet?
Mr. Mayor, maybe I just need to clarify. So my understanding is the amendment that is on the floor takes out the 2 zones here that are pretty well abutting up to Green Hill. Am I hearing you correct, Councilmember Gamfield?
Basically, the dividing line between the development that Councilmember Dunn just talked about, which is that multi-residential apartment complex, and the daycare property would still be included in the revite, and everything south would be removed from the revite.
So if this were to go through, going back to Mr. Graham, you're saying that this would jeopardize that. I know it's a different agenda item, but that where we kind of muddied the waters now. This could then have a negative impact on that project should that developer wish to take advantage of those incentives until this whole piece is flushed out, cleared out, correct?
Right. The developer, it depends on their timeline. From the last conversation I had, they were looking to get started probably as soon as spring comes around. So if we're still working through this, the adoption of this plan, and extends into May or June, then it would be advisable for the developer not to start the project until this gets finished, because the state code is pretty clear and it says that you can't start the project prior to the adoption of the plan.
And if we were to approve this amendment, it requires additional public notice then for a rereading or redefinition of this area. How long until we could then re-legalese this document to present again? I'm guessing 2 weeks is not the answer to that. Is that fair? Looking at Attorney Rogers.
The process, well, the minimum notice is not less than 4 or more than 20, so there's a 4 and 20 rule. But we haven't even gotten to the legal description and redrafting the area, and then getting it back to council to set the hearing, and then the next reading and the next you can see we're out of ways. I make no recommendation either way on what council does on this. I'm just telling you the time frame.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Counselor. One sec. We have one other council member that hasn't spoken yet.
Sure, why not? I share the same concern that delaying this will delay a potential development that we all have expressed to think is great. I think that there is The empty spaces that were referred to last time as a prairie are able to be developed into apartments or whatever right now. I would agree with Counselor Hawbaker. I don't think that zoning this as a revite area encourages that to happen. And if for some reason there were a potential plan brought forward that would come through this process, we now have heard the concerns of these neighbors that that's not something they would want to see in their area. We also know that we have some strict requirements around those. Those things would include setbacks and screenings, and you have to have proper parking and access. And looking at this, I'm no expert. It doesn't look like there's a great option for that as this is designed at present. So I understand that there is concern. I think the chance is very unlikely that that would happen. And again, it currently could happen. So even if we change this now, it could still happen. We would have to completely rezone the area, which would take a long time, and it's not something that is on our agenda. We've already pushed items that the council has requested to talk about into June and July. So if we were adding another item to our agenda to rezone this neighborhood, it's just, to me, we should proceed with it as is, and I don't think there's any concern that this is going to become some multi-residential development.
Thank you, Councilor. 1 second. Jump to Councilor Cruz.
Thank you. My understanding, everybody seems to really like the project next to the roundabout, as Mr. Council Ganville describes it, southeast corner. We correct the area covered as has been motioned, and then we have our legal department redraft things, get the notices, and then we vote on it once, and then we can suspend the rules because we all like it and accelerate it within one more meeting, and we've got it in place. So to Councilor Latta's concern, I don't see this delaying it. Really, there's methods to move things forward, and we can take these areas out of it that are concerned to the single-family homes on the east and west of Millennial and Luke. So I'm very much in favor of removing that area. It would not take much to rewrite the legal description, and we can move forward with the notices. So that's how I look at it. The means are there to get it approved in plenty of time for construction this spring.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor. Denny, could you put up the slide on 95 that has the map? 95. That's showing the corner.
Page 95?
Yeah, page 95.
I don't have control of the PowerPoint out there.
Oh, Shane, come back.
I don't know that this one's in that PowerPoint.
Yeah, it might not be in the.
Okay, so we had talked about where the street was going to go. If we go straight up on the entire, from Huntington Road up to Green Hill, is that intersection across from, I think it's a bank on Green Hill, is that where the proposed complex and the pickleball court and that community, taking half of it's the revitalized and half of it is already established multi-family homes?
I'm trying to follow what you were saying there. The area you're talking, are you talking about the property on the east?
Correct.
That like small narrow strip?
Yeah.
Yes, there would be a road, I believe, that would go up through the middle of that property to the existing Hidden Pines subdivision, which may be what you're referring to across from the bank. That has public roads in it, and City Council just recently approved the final
Right,
plat for that.
Is there a correlation between these two projects?
No.
Completely separate?
Yes.
Okay.
To answer
All
your
right,
question,
that's the only,
Council?
yep, that's the only question I have.
Thanks, Shane. Any other discussion for council?
Mayor, excuse me, I should add one more thing. There's a bit of a debate on whether or not new notice is required if you shrink the area as opposed to adding on to it. I haven't bought into that argument yet. I just, because I'm in my nature conservative, I just want to let council know that further investigation by me may allow us to avoid a whole new notice on a smaller area. I didn't want to leave the impression that it was absolutely going to be necessary to start over with notice. We do have to change the legal description and start over on the ordinance, though. I want to clarify.
So you're saying we should take a recess so you can go, just kidding. So I would say for tonight's vote, treat it though as it would send it back to come through until we would know otherwise. Yeah, Counselor.
This would be to Mr. Rogers. When we have the first reading come back with the revamped legal description, can we do all 3 readings at once? Or do we have to do 1 reading and then the next meeting suspend the rules? Or what's the quickest we could approve the north part of this project?
So the legal answer is council can suspend the rules at first reading. My experience here, it's never been done before. The quickest we've operated is 2 readings, the first, and then suspend the rules and pass second and third on the second meeting. But council can, if they wish.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just one last plea. I think last meeting we discussed this item. We discussed trying to push it to this meeting so that members of the public could be heard. We serve at their behest. I don't think I need to remind everybody of that. But that was one of the reasons why I didn't push this amendment last week, because I wasn't convinced that's what we needed to do. I get the sense that maybe some staff got that sense, and so I hope that this wouldn't be a month-long process to redraft the boundary lines. I don't know, because I'm not the expert on that, but it's a rather simple changing the shape. I know that's a lot to summarize the work that they'll have to do, but I'm hoping they could get this change back within the next meeting. And with 3 standard readings of that new ordinance would push us to April 7th, which I presume would still be fine, or we could set aside those rules. Either way, I think being able to move this to a smaller area is right for the area concerned. It allows us to move forward with the benefits and avoid the setbacks until we discuss further what to do about the south side. So I just want to make one last plea that we should still be able to get that other desired development without impacting all the neighbors. And to the point that it's not incentivizing multi-residential growth, then what's the point of an incentive area? And if we don't think this is going to move the needle and start developing multi-residential where it's been undeveloped, then what's the point of an incentive area? We are only putting it there to encourage that kind of growth, which we've now heard for 2 meetings isn't desired by many of the residents in that area whom I represent. So please amend this and let's get through with the northern portion.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion? Just a recap, we are motion and seconded on voting to amend this to remove that southern portion, have staff redraft the legal designation, and bring that back in whatever quickest format possible. So we have a motion and seconded, and if no further discussion requires a roll call. Oh, wait, no, that would just be voice vote. So all those in favor of amending to postpone this and redraft?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So that motion, you need to show hands. So all those in favor, show hands. And Daryl. And all opposed? So that motion does not carry. So we will go back to the original motion that we have for approving and adopting. Make sure I'm on the right item. Passing the ordinance number 3093, designating the multi-residential urban revitalization area of the city of Cedar Falls, Iowa upon second consideration. So we have a motion second. Any further discussion? All right, what was that? Yes, we do still need to do additional public comment. Thank you. So additional public comment as well. Just name and address, please.
John Thompson, 4810 Luke Street. I live with that property. Our property backs up to the narrow strip between Luke and the city line that we've been discussing. I want to thank Mr. Gadfield for his motion because that addressed many of the things I wanted to talk about today. Yeah, my wife did talk earlier. I try not to be redundant here. I just kind of wanted to go over why we were resistant to this change. I'll be honest with you, that we love that area back there. It's wooded. It provides us privacy, wildlife. People say it's like a park. But that being, and I really wouldn't want it to change, but that being said, I'm aware that property belongs to somebody. It's been for sale since before we bought our home 9 years ago. To think that it's never going to change is probably pretty unrealistic. What is not unrealistic, however, is the idea that the city will provide those 20-some homes along Luke that back up to it some protection in regards to the type of development goes in there. Single-family homes is one thing. Multi-story apartment buildings is something else entirely. And my understanding is that's what this is doing, is incentivizing. As Mr. Ganfield said, if it's not, then why are we doing it? Now, I don't know if you've actually seen this place. I hope that some people would look at it. I don't think that the map adequately describes this area. It's not only very narrow, but it is actually higher than Luke Street. Last summer, when they were working on the Hidden Pines, they ran an alley through this strip from Hidden Pines down to Huntington first to do a sewage line. If you stand at my back property line, that little lane is 8 to 10 feet higher than my head. Much of the Luke, along Luke, then goes up further up to a berm which separates Waterloo and Cedar Falls. If you squeezed apartment buildings in there, you would not only be right up against our property line, but you'd be looking right in our bedroom window. Now, you can't tell me that when the time comes to sell a home, that's not going to have a negative impact on how much our house is worth. And like I said, I think there's 21 homes along there, and it's going to impact everybody backed up there, and probably some residual to the people on the other side of Luke also. We moved out of state in '98. And then we moved back to Cedar Falls in 2016 when we retired. And we came back to Cedar Falls for a variety of reasons, but not the least of which is the type of city we believe Cedar Falls to be. We believed that the quality of life is important to you folks. We believe it's important to the people who live here. I want you to imagine squeezing apartment buildings in behind your house, and again, looking right down into your yard, and tell me that doesn't have an impact. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I understand the need for more apartment buildings. I support that. I also understand that sometimes individuals get hurt for more people's, excuse me, I misspoke myself. When more people are benefiting from it, that occasionally people get hurt. I think that can be avoidable at times. I think this is one of those times that's avoidable. Because again, I believe what you would gain towards your goal by doing this versus the damage it's done, it's not the same thing. I just want you to reconsider what you're doing and take into consideration the people that live there. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick, and I'll look to Kevin to maybe correct me on this. I should have asked for that public comment as we had done the amended vote as well. I also know if there was any reconsideration and wanted to do that, because based on the public comment, we can retake that vote, I believe.
Yes and yes, as long as somebody moves to reconsider if they feel appropriate. But I would imagine folks would speak to both points at this point.
So if anybody wanted to reconsider, anybody who was on the passing side of that vote, we can. Otherwise, we'll move forward with the motion on the floor to, let me reword it so everyone on the record, to pass ordinance number 3093, designating the multi-residential urban revitalization area of the city of Cedar Falls, Iowa upon its second consideration.
Mr. Mayor, are we going to, I just am wondering, do we get to have another comment sesh on this? Or did we already have that? We had it on the amendment, but I don't think we actually had.
Did open it up, but we can, after
We just
public
did.
comment, reopen it up if
To
you still have
the
additional
public,
conversation.
I mean to us, council.
She's talking about council.
Yeah, I thought we did, but we'll finish public comment, then we can bring it back.
Okay,
Yep.
sounds great.
I'll say technically because you spoke on behalf of this item the first time, if that's okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
if I may, I wouldn't want to step on anybody's rights to be heard on a public comment just because they used the earlier public comment. If it'd be okay with council, I think we'd allow the individual to speak even though they were heard earlier.
Separate portion here.
Okay. Yep. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. In regard to Mr. Haubecker, comparing the urban revitalization in the College Hill area to this residential area where there is no commercial is not a good analogy, and it's not grasping the area. And since there wasn't a slide, again, if you would like to see the area, I have those maps. I get the impression, again, that some people want to just push this through because it's fastest and easiest at this point. I also understand you have that development, the big apartment complex going in at Green Hill and Cedar Heights. Again, the renderings that you showed look wonderful, and nobody's arguing against that. And you cannot tell me that that builder who's put all that time and effort into figuring out where he wants, if he can put it, done up the renderings and got his architect involved. You cannot tell me that if you delay it a month, that he's going to pull out and cancel doing that. So if that's your reasoning for wanting to rush this through, I don't think that's a very legitimate reason. That apartment complex, we all know, is going to go through. And it looks wonderful, and it should go through, I agree. But let's not please judge this and that by making the amendment that Mr. Ganfield suggested would in any way cause that builder to pull out. I think that's unrealistic, and I think it's just using an excuse to go ahead and rush through what would be the easiest vote. And I, again, appreciate Mr. Ganfield and Mr. Schultz and Mr. Clausen, your input on that. Thank you for letting me speak again.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Any other public comments for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council conversation.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. First, I want to clarify in case I insinuated that it meant I asked if it would be affected, and it could be affected. A delay would be in effect. So I just want to make sure. I think that's what I asked. Second of all, this is not a site plan. We don't know if or what or anything that would go through there. And if there was a site plan, it would go all through the process of planning and zoning and all the things. This is for us to pass a ordinance designating a multi-residential urban revitalization area. Mr. Graham, did I hear you correctly that multi-residential in the city of Cedar Falls, and I hate to make you repeat yourself, but I want to make sure I heard correctly, because my hearing isn't great, is a 3 or more building, 3 units or more?
For the designation of this plan,
Yes,
correct.
for a multi-residential?
Multifamily, yeah, which is 3 or more.
Okay, so it is very possible that if this area ever was developed, that it could be as small as a 3-unit building, which could be, you tell me if I'm wrong in thinking this, it could be townhomes, it could be in my neighborhood, just down the block from where I live, I suppose they're townhomes, they're older, but it could be a small, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be multi-story, it has to fit the setbacks and everything for the area that would be proposed to be built in, correct? I mean, all the same rules would go in.
Correct. Now, again, you can have single family in the R4 district, the MU. Again, for this plan specifically and the incentive abatement, it's for multi-residential, which is 3 or more.
Sure, that's the incentive. Mm-hmm. But again, we don't have a plan at this moment, correct? For this lot that's between the city line and Luke?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So I guess what I'm getting at is if we ever get a plan, then we go through the whole thing. Right now, I think we keep talking like there's going to be something built on it tomorrow. And I understand the concern. I'm not taking away from the citizens' concerns. But right now, it's just simply making an ordinance designating a multi-residential revitalization area. And I guess one of the reasons why, to me, that is important is because the housing, not just in Cedar Falls, all over the country, is very lacking. So having the opportunity or incentivizing maybe what a lot of us think is maybe, I don't know, I guess if you're like me and you live in a single family house, then you may think this is outside the box. But I mean, I think most of us have maybe lived in an apartment or two. I think we're getting the cart before the horse. This isn't a site plan. This is just designating the area as an urban revitalization plan. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Cruz.
I think it would be very, I don't know what the right word is, naive to think that a developer looking at this incentive is going to limit themselves to 3-unit buildings. They're going to maximize their profitability by maximizing the number of units under the single roof that they build. So, I mean, we're kind of in a rock and a hard place here. I mean, I'd like to hear a reconsideration to go back and amend this with the caveat that we can suspend the rules on the first reading and approve it and not delay for the developer. I mean, it's an injustice here to these people that have spoke last council meeting and this council meeting on Millennial and Luke Street. There's no point in having an incentive there that could be detrimental to their living standards in their homes in the single family home area. And this incentive includes the developed area already. So I think that's really wrong. So using the suspend the rules technique, we could accelerate this and not have a delay for spring construction around the 1st of May. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And just a reminder, if anybody did want to revisit that amendment, it would have to be from somebody who was on the majority side of voting to not move forward with it.
Motion and second from the group.
Motion and second, okay.
Mr. Mayor, one more. You know, I guess the way I look at it is that the designation of the revitalization area enables the city to have tools available to it should a development come forward that we may or may not want to try to help get done. We don't have to decide when that development, if ever, comes forward to use those tools, but we can't if the area doesn't exist. It is possible that there could be a proposal down the road to develop these properties, although I take Council Member Christman's point that these are very narrow strips that we're talking about there, that everybody in the community would be in agreement with, but the only way that it would get done is if we had the area available, designated as a revitalization district, so that we had the ability, if needed, to do the tax incentive program. So it's not a land use determination. It's not a foregone conclusion what if gets built there, but if there's a proposal out there that could take advantage of these, they would be available to us at the time. And so that's why I see, you know, broader areas of this concept are good in general for development for the city, because at least we have that tool available to us.
Thank you, Councilor. And for the sake of time tonight, I'm going to keep us to one more comment each. I think at this point we've spoken a lot of the pieces, but I want to make sure and keep us moving.
I appreciate this. Well, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
If I may, I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't know that we can do that. But
I do believe by ordinance, everyone gets 2 chances to speak on any item max, and I can enforce beyond that point. If Attorney Rogers, just want to make sure that's...
It's only to allow the next person who is willing to speak before an additional opportunity for that person to speak a third time.
Okay. Do you know, I want to ask you that if you're not sure, I'll err on the side of giving you the chance to talk.
I can pull out the rule and we can read it if you want me to.
I've got it pretty
And
well
besides, if the chair makes a ruling, council can overrule the chair, so.
Yep. We'll go ahead and Aaron.
Anyway,
Yep.
I'm rather impassioned about this. I'm going to try to be not going on too long, but I guess my question, without trying to cast aspersion or to insinuate anything, is why is everybody fighting so hard to get these areas incentivized for multi-residential development? It's odd. We had an individual developer come with an idea before we had a multi-residential revitalization zone. We can react to their proposal by creating a multi-residential revite zone to incentivize that growth, to help partner with them to see their idea through to fruition. That's how this one's going down. We even have to change the zoning of the area to allow them to build that type of building. So the idea that we must have this incentive before anybody will come to us with an idea is not proper. I think they could come with another idea. Obviously, these are multi-resident or multi-use and R4 areas and a little sliver of A1. People could build larger buildings there right now, in their backyards, looking into their windows. I get that. They could. They have the right to do that under R4 and under MU. But we're not paying them to do it with their tax dollars. We represent the citizens of this community, several of which have said, please don't do this. We don't want you to pay them, which is in effect advertising a sign that says, come on over here, blue light special on this strip of land. We're going to cover part of the bill so you can build multi-residential, which must be at least 3 units. Nobody's going to build a 3-unit duplex when they could build a 12-unit and get all that extra in rent. They're allowed already to put in whatever they want, I get that. But nobody's going to put in just a 3-unit. We already had discussions, no formal plans, but we already had discussions about single families maybe wanting to build in that strip on the east next to Luke, abutting Waterloo, because there's already sewer line run south to north to the Hidden Pines area. That can proceed as is and enhance our tax base. Any development that happens on the west side of Millennium next to Cedar Heights would enhance our tax base. Why are y'all fighting so hard to give money to 3-unit buildings or larger? We could have amended this map and let everything proceed with a 4-week delay. Yes, that affects the developer and their proposal, but it's 4 weeks in the middle of winter in Iowa. It's not going to stall their construction season. 2 of you, please reconsider the amendment.
Thank you, Counselor.
Just my second or third.
Go ahead, Gil.
My question's for Mr. Roger. You had mentioned that you needed to do some research, but do you happen to know if this would pass tonight, what would it take to then look at that boundary and move that boundary up past Millennial and Luke on the north boundaries?
So council approves the second reading, and then on the third reading, we'd be right back where we are right now. If someone would move to amend and second, then we'd start all the way over. So we'd have is that
I'm looking
understand your question?
further down the road. I'm looking at some future point. Could it be brought up that, hey, we're in a revitalization area. We want to take, you said that you believe that you could make it smaller, just couldn't make it bigger. Is there a timeline on when you could make it smaller?
There isn't. I think your limitation might be that a developer detrimentally relies on the program and acquires a vested interest, and then you pull the incentives back by shrinking the area. That would be the danger. If that didn't happen, then you would have to create a new revitalization area that's smaller. So in effect, you're starting over again.
Okay.
I think theoretically that's possible.
Does that answer it, Counselor?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one more clarification, if that's all right. We're not spending anybody's money tonight, should we vote for this. Again, it gives us the tools that we could give tax incentives to certain properties. That's what's allowed under the statute. And then a development agreement would come before this council for whatever the development may be. And if we did not want to provide those incentives at that time, we can say no, much akin to item number 2 on the agenda tonight with the revised development agreement. So it doesn't spend money. It just lays a little overlay over this area that enables us to use it if we need to or want to in the future. That's it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead, Counselor.
I guess I would, I don't know, fairly strongly disagree with that last statement that the tools here amount to the flashing red light that we've mentioned, or the blue light special. We're incentivizing people to come look at this spot. And we have single family homes right down the middle of these 2 strips that don't want multi-units on each side of them. I mean, we should give some credence to what they want for their neighborhoods and where they let their kids play and so on. The project can get approved rapidly by suspending the readings at the first reading, suspend the rules at the first reading. And we are in the middle of winter, first reading in February. We'd have 5 more readings between now and the 1st of May, council meetings before the 1st of May. We could get this done easily for the construction season. And I don't see anything happening to the project in the southeast corner up by the roundabout. We all like it. We all like it a lot. So there's no point in extending this tool down into a area that's already developed, for one thing. I can't get over that part. Why are we including that? Was it easier to draft it? Well, it wouldn't have been contiguous with the east strip if we didn't include the developed area already. And I think that alone, to me, is a red flag. Why are we including developed area in a revitalization area? These homes probably are built, I don't know, since 2000 maybe, or thereabouts. They're not that old. So anyway, I just think we should have amended it when we had the chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And I believe, well, again, let staff correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe it has to be a contiguous area. It's part of it. You can't have separated areas. So I believe that's why the whole district was included.
Right.
Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
Four voting aye, 3 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion does carry. Move to item number 8, pass ordinance number 3094. And I guess I should take a second to say thank you, everyone, for the conversation, taking time to come in. I know it is an important topic. Item number 8, pass ordinance number 3094, amending the zoning map by removing approximately 13.28 acres of property located at the southeast corner of Green Hill and Cedar Heights Road from R2 Residential District and placing the same into MU Mixed Use Residential District upon its second consideration.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. And any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? All seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
Six voting aye, 1 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 9, pass an ordinance number 3095, repealing ordinance number 2774, designating the College Hill Urban Revitalization Area in the city of Cedar Falls, Iowa upon its second consideration.
So
Motioned
Second.
and seconded. And any discussion from council? And any from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to the consent calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests for items on the consent calendar to be considered separately?
10.
10. Any others from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? All right, also seeing none, I'll look for a motion to approve items 11 through 14 of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Mr.
and-
Mayor, I think you said approving items 11 through 14?
Correct, and the 10 was pulled.
Pulled,
So we're
sorry.
going to come back. Yep. I know usually I say the whole thing excluding, but this was on the end. So we'll go to item number 10. Look for a motion to approve the following recommendation of the mayor relative to the appointment of members to boards and commissions. A. Jack Bauman, Human Rights Commission, term ending 7/01/26, and Thomas Davis, Human Rights Commission, term ending 7/01/26.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and open for council discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say thank you to Jack and Thomas for volunteering their time. And if anyone else is interested in joining a boards or commission, you can find those on the city's website.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? Are you seeing none? Any from the public? All right, also seeing none, requires a voice vote then. All those in favor of item 10?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Sorry, Daryl, I didn't give you enough time to respond.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, resolution calendar. The following items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests from council?
22 and 23.
22 and 23.
21, Mr. Mayor.
21. Any others from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? 25, and what was the second one? All right, any others from the public? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve items 15 through 34 of the resolution calendar, excluding items 21, 22, 23, 25, and 34?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded and requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Go to item number 21. Look for a motion to approve resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement for asbestos testing and clearance monitoring services with Hawkeye Environmental relative to properties located at 515 West First Street, 804 through 806 West Searly Boulevard, 818 West Searly Boulevard, and 2413 Olive Street.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded and open for council discussion. Councilor Cruz, if you want to.
Yeah. My understanding was that the owner of this was in the process of getting it sold, and this looks like the first step to demolition. Can somebody clarify that for the first part of my question?
Director Sheets.
We asked the owner to give us an update before the council deadline, which was December, I'm forgetting the date. Told them that we needed to hear about that, and we have not heard since then.
To clarify, we've got no response whatsoever from.
Well, we
So
received
then-
a response, but we told them we needed more information on several things, and there was no information about whether a sale was actually happening or not. Just an indication that it might.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
It seems from what I recall, the big concern here was the number of sidewalk snow violations and mowing the yard. And granted, there's some aesthetics on the buildings, but I don't know if it would get to the point of demoing these properties. Somebody could buy these and renovate them without too much trouble. I don't know that there was any foundation structural things. There was one potential on one, I remember, but that's easy to fix. I think this is kind of heavy-handed in my mind to go this route without having a better understanding of the potential sales process that could take place here.
And if I could,
you.
Counselor, I don't believe that's accurate. I believe there were significant improvements, issues with walkways, stairways that are uneven, siding falling off the homes, issues of concerns of even the livability of the projects. And then there was also the additional item of the mowing and snow removal, but I believe that was a minor piece compared to some of the actual safety concerns with the buildings themselves.
That's all external stuff. There was never an internal inspection, correct?
Director Sheets.
That's correct. The committee that met to review them felt that there was no need to do an internal inspection and brought it forward for council to consider condemnation.
So what's the time frame then for the condemnation? Could the owner still entertain a sale at any time here?
It's still possible. There's going to be a point where that's not going to be possible. I suppose if we went in, for example, and did the testing and we learned afterwards that that there was a contract for sale and that new owner came forward and acknowledged the things that need to be done and gave us a plan on that, we could halt. We did go ahead and do the demo RFPs, so that would be the next contract that would come forward to council possibly at your next meeting. But tonight it's about the asbestos testing, so it is the start of the process for demolition.
Any other discussion from council? Yep, go ahead.
So I excuse myself from voting on this, but I just have a question in general. That asbestos abatement, would you have to get a court order to get inside to do that assessment?
Yes, we would. Yes.
Any discussion from council? And I will say, again, there's no intent or want to do this, but we've received no follow-up. And based on council's conversation, this was the next step of the condemnation process, and if we don't hear anything, we have really no option but to move forward with the process. So, all right, seeing no more discussion from council, any from the public? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
So Kim, again,
5 voting aye, 1 voting nay, and 1 abstaining.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item 22, resolution approving and accepting a forgivable loan agreement and real estate mortgage for property located at 1410 Tremont Street relative to rental to single-family ownership conversion incentive program. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and Counselor.
I just wanted to pull this one because I think it's kind of an exciting thing and it's a great opportunity for other people if they're interested. So this is a recently purchased rental home. Is set to receive a major exterior makeover. So the initiative was adopted in 2015 and offers forgivable loans to encourage rental properties to transition into owner-occupied homes. And of course, we're huge fans of rentals, but this is also just a cool opportunity for someone if they're living in a rental and then they're able to purchase it. So for this project, the homeowner is going to replace the siding and upgrade windows for better energy efficiency and security and repair some stairs to enhance the safety. And the city, so our staff is recommending a forgivable loan matching the owner's personal investment. So it's just an exciting opportunity, bring some fresh updates to the neighborhood. And I think kind of along a similar vein, the mayor mentioned earlier the Housing Trust Fund. This is kind of along those same things. These are opportunities for folks to do some great things to the houses that already exist in some of our neighborhoods. So yeah, just wanted to call this person out for taking advantage of the opportunity.
Thank you, Counselor. And I do want to clarify, this will be the last one available because we do not currently have it budgeted to fund that program any longer. However, the Housing Trust Fund does have rehab dollars that will be available as well that homeowners can look at if they qualify under the income restriction. So,
correct.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any discussion from the public? All right, also seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 23, resolution approving and authorizing submission of the Iowa Certified Local Government, CLG, 2024 Annual Report of the Historic Preservation Commission to the State Historical Society of Iowa. We have motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. And Counselor.
Me again. I pulled this one just because we have a few of our Historic Preservation Commission members here. So this is really just submitting all of the work they've done over the last year so that they can continue to qualify for this designation. And they have done a bunch of amazing things. They've worked with the North Cedar Neighborhood Association to do a tour of their neighborhood. They have worked on an interactive app. They have also commissioned a CLG grant to do a survey of the Overman Park neighborhood to seek historic designation for that area. And they've also digitized a bunch of historical resources that can be found on the website. So they've been super busy. This is one of our more active commissions. Again, if you're interested in joining a board or commission, you can find all of those on our website. And a huge thank you to the members and everyone that's present that's worked on those projects. We really appreciate everything that you guys have done. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? I'll seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item 25, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an agreement for a traffic safety improvement program, TSIP, funding with the Iowa Department of Transportation, IDOT, relative to the Highway 57 and Union Road intersection improvement project. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Just your name, please.
Kim Jensen, Jordan. Just clarity to how that's going to impact that intersection, if it's clearing trees, if it's just all relative to the changing and the roundabout, and where we could have maybe gone a little bit scaled back and not gone forward with the roundabout and reposition the flashing light that used to be over First Street and continue to use those stoplights, the stop signs. They've seemed to be very effective. It's a very heavily trafficked intersection now with the high school. And if there is additional monies that are going to be put into Union Road for construction, and just clarifying if there was any previous money that just wasn't used for upgrades on Union Road leading up to this, and especially with Happel's addition that has been before council multiple times, kind of in the same scenario of what we're dealing with tonight with redefining areas, but holding the developer and ourselves set to the area that was already designated for so many parcels and not exceeding upon it because of the way that we've already set things into play. So just, I guess I pulled it because I'm wanting to know where some of the budget can be held back. Is it a project that's going to be added on to in the future? If so, can we temporarily put the flashing light back? Why was that taken out? And are the stoplights being effective right there? Keeping it open, knowing how we're affected by how the surrounding communities come in. You know, that's always a point of concern. And yeah.
Yes, Councilor.
Yeah.
I was just going to point out of order, relevance to this particular topic is actually approving for a $500,000 traffic safety improvement program grant. So it's not about whether it's going to be redesigned or any of those other pieces. Is there something relevant to that $500,000 grant money that's coming in to help with the project?
Okay, so what are we thinking that $500,000 grant would entail? Or where are we going to use that?
And I'll have staff. I can.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I was just, I guess I would like to, it just seems like we could hold or pause and not destroy the trees that are holding some of that. So yeah, I would appreciate, you know, not just clearing that area, but purposefully using and constructing it. And then how could we save some money and use it down the road?
All right. Thank you. Jason, you just want to give a quick background on the project, what this funding is?
Sure.
for?
The city's been working in conjunction with the Iowa Department of Transportation for safety improvements at that intersection. The grant proposal was for a roundabout just due to the significant safety factor that those produce post-construction. We were awarded the grant, in which this is the agreement for the $500,000. The construction plans have not come forward before council yet. That will be late in 2025 for 2026 construction.
Okay. Thank you, Director. Any other public comment on this item tonight? Just name, please.
I just want to tell you all thank you for applying for the grant, getting that grant, and taking the public safety into consideration at that intersection. You know that's been a particularly dangerous intersection. There have been fatalities there. And I don't believe, I'm through that intersection all the time, I don't believe it involves taking down any or many trees. But I am aware that there's a residence right on the corner that had long hedge there that someone required them to take down, and that right there has increased the visibility a great deal. So whoever's responsible for that, I appreciate. And so thank you very much for making that a much safer intersection for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Any other public comment for this item tonight? All right, seeing none requires a roll call vote.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now go to item 34, resolution setting February 17th, 2025 as the date of public hearing on proposed amendments to the Cedar Falls zoning map from A1 Agricultural Zoning District to RP Planned Residence District, approximately 2.68 acres of property located at the south side of West First Street. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, and quick, I will preface, this item is just to set the public hearing date. So we will not be having any conversation about the actual rezoning itself, anything about the development. It is just strictly about the date of the public hearing. So we won't be allowing any comments on anything beyond the date of the public hearing. So any discussion from council on setting the date? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Just name, please.
Kim Jensen Jordan. And beforehand, just kind of maybe locating that, and then if this is multi-family
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
residential.
this is strictly for setting the date, so we
Setting
will
the date.
not have any discussion beyond that.
Okay. And so that is, if you could maybe have a picture of where that is.
At the 17th?
Yes,
Okay.
at the setting.
All right, thank you. All right, any other public comment for this item tonight? All right, seeing none requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion carries. Move to bills and claims. We have a motion to allow bills and claims for February 3rd, 2025.
Moved.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Second it too.
And any from the public?
Second also.
All right, seeing none requires a roll call vote, please.
Like the second also.
Yeah, totally.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any council updates and/or announcements?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I don't want to keep beating this. I think we've had a few meetings this year. I just want to make a quick announcement out to the members of the public. The packets are online, published Wednesday evening or late afternoon, the Wednesday prior to the council meeting, or sometimes moved if it was a holiday. The packet has quite a substantive detail there. This one's 501 pages. Most of the time, there's a lot of questions already answered in that packet. Staff does a fantastic job of making sure you have all the information you're going to need. And if you've reviewed it and you don't have the answers, that's why we're here. We're all here to represent you, so please reach out to whoever is your direct ward representative or our 2 council members at large, and they will be able to answer questions and engage with you. I think we've had probably 3 or 4 different meetings where there's been answers already in the packet, and I just want to make sure that our citizenry is well equipped. This is part of your right and also a responsibility to do the homework, to know what's going on in your community. So I commend folks for coming out to speak tonight. It is not easy, even if you are well prepped, as you obviously all seem to be, but please make sure you avail yourself to that. Packet research and us council persons, we're here for you, so reach out.
Thank you, Counselor. And I would just second it. I know a lot of times it can be daunting to talk to your council member, your elected officials. We're just people. We're just neighbors in the community. So reach out to us, myself included. If we have technical questions, we can get you in touch with staff. Make sure you guys have whatever information you need. So,
Mr. Mayor, to go off of Mr. Ganfield's comments, it's still important to come and have conversations. Even though we might answer those questions one-on-one, we've got thousands of other people that are at home or reading later after the fact, well, why didn't they talk about this? And it may have been the thing that we talked on the phone about, but talking about it here puts it into the whole public's view.
thank you, Counselor. Any other updates, announcements for council? Seeing none, any council referrals, any pressing? Did not have any submitted.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would like to refer to staff to draft an alternate reading of that ordinance and moving the map boundaries, if possible, for our next reading, or for our next meeting, excuse me.
I'll look for a second.
I'll second that. I'll second it also.
Thank you, Councilmember. So any discussion, the motion is to have staff, and if I can clarify, is there a intent for what to use that for? Is it just to have it prepared in the case of?
To clarify, in the briefest form possible in this referral, it would be to seek compromise with the council, that we'd have an alternative to vote on in an expedient fashion so that we could actually get the developer what they need, but actually give the citizenry what they need as well. I found that that item was a 4-3. We seem to say we want compromise and some more 7-0 votes. That was an opportunity on the table that I think was missed, so I'd like to refer drafted language so that we have no more delay as a rationale for not being able to switch that map boundary.
I'll look for this
Mr. Mayor?
motion. Yep, Councilmember.
I agree with the sentiments that are spoken, that some of us believe that this is going to delay the project. We have 5 readings. We could, at the 3rd reading, decide to amend and remove that lower part and go the route that Mr. Ganfield's advocating there. I would like to find out from Mr. Rogers definitively if an area can be shrunk and quickly put out into the council to vote on, and then do the 3 readings in one and suspend the rules. I think that's prudent to know those details. So I like the referral idea. Thank you.
So we'll say quick one. I think we'll talk in general anyway, just to make sure we know what we're capable of on that. For this motion, it's actually direct staff to do the legwork and the time invested to draft a new legal description of that. So that's kind of the motion that we've got on the floor. Any other discussion on that? And otherwise, see none, this will not be an actual vote, just looking for consensus. So all those in favor of having staff draft?
I guess that's true. We have to
Aye.
do staff.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
That motion does not carry. So thank you for the pressing referral, Councilman Ganfield. Do we have any other pressing referrals? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion and second to go to executive session to discuss property acquisition per Iowa Code Section 21.51J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? And any from the public? No. All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
I'm getting there.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we will now go to executive session. Just so everyone knows, there will be no additional business discussed after we return. We will return to the meeting just to adjourn, but nothing else will be discussed at tonight's meeting. So you are welcome to stick around if you'd like to see the adjournment. It's very exciting. Otherwise, thank you for staying around. Have a great night, and we will see you again soon.
Hugely exciting.